Hi, I'm Beth Justice with SIPA, and with me today is Ben Edelen with Boulder County. Ben is well known for being Colorado's local government cyber security advocate. He is always willing to lend a hand with your cyber concerns and point you in the right direction. Ben, welcome to SIPA's podcast, GovTech Now. So tell me, what are you working on?
Hey, Beth, thank you so much for having me. Lately, here at Boulder County, I'm working on our continuity of government plan for the IT department and for our cybersecurity program, which is a plan that looks at how the IT department supports emergency management in Boulder County and how we support the technology of Boulder County during a major disaster. So I'm looking at things like our incident response planning work within the cybersecurity program, our business continuity plans for our major applications like our finance application and other critical infrastructure around the county. And I'm looking at how we can support the emergency management office in what they do during a major emergency. So supporting things like Web EOC, which is an application we all use to communicate during an emergency, and other similar technologies like that. For example, making sure that our social media accounts have multi-factor authentication enabled so that they don't get taken over while we're trying to communicate with the community during an emergency. Those are all ways that our IT department can support our emergency managers during some kind of a flood or fire or major cyber incident, things like that.
Well, that sounds like a great project. So do you have to work with other departments to kind of pull all these things together? I mean, who's all involved in that?
Yeah, I've been working first and foremost with our emergency manager, and I think it's really great practice for cybersecurity leaders to go get to know their emergency managers. And there's a whole different language over there at the emergency management office that they speak in terms of coordinating all of the first responders, all of the different kinds of community members that come in and help with an emergency. And then I get to work with all of my partners that sit in the EOC to come to understand the ways that we can support them. So maybe the communications team has really important needs for how to keep the website up to date during an emergency, or even just making sure the website stays up under an increased load. Public health and I work together on some of the things that they need to communicate or some of the technologies that they're using. The IT department has a critical mapping division, and maps have become super important over the last few years. As we've seen all these different floods and fires, you want to be able to draw polygons for where is it safe, where is it not safe, where is it okay to travel, which county facilities are open and which ones are closed, which ones are safe to be in. And so that connects me with building services. And on top of all that, the IT department is inside a building, a shared building with other teams. And so it's our responsibility to work with our building partners like Human Resources, who sits near us, to develop a building safety plan for how we evacuate the building. Where are our super cool, emergency backpacks, and who keeps the batteries charged on all these things. So we've been working on kind of a big range of documents and plans that advertise what IT can offer and also support all of these different partnerships when there's a big disaster. It even gives me the ability, when it comes to being connected, to ask for help up the chain. So if I have a major cyber incident and then I have these relationships, I can work with our emergency manager to ask for help from the state. Up to and even including the state National Guard could be a part of a response that comes into our community and helps us contain a major cyber incident. But the trick there is that you have to build those relationships before you have an emergency. You can't just make some blind phone calls in the middle of a disaster and without those relationships in place, if that makes any sense.
That really does, and probably something we don't really think about, right? I mean, you're trying to get a hold of all these different people and they'll be like, who are you? I'm in the middle of an emergency right now. So I'm guessing, have you had to implement any of these policies so far in Boulder County?
Yeah, actually, one of the most extraordinary things about working for a county is once I got access to an emergency management office, I guess I'm lucky that I had the courage to go ask them how to be a better incident manager. And they taught me a process. It's really not the incident command process. It's more the section chief process within their overarching emergency management framework that they use on how to coordinate a group of individuals to respond to something, to learn about it, get it, the root cause of it, analyze, get it contained, and go, fall back into your ordinary business processes. So I learned that from collaborating with my emergency manager, and then I was able to put that in my plan and teach and play with tabletop exercises to build those skills around the organization. And we've worked a ton of those types of incidents. So anytime that we're concerned that there may have been a fraud incident, or that there might be a data breach, or that software might be being exploited, or that we don't like the way that someone has behaved within our environment, we use that process as a team within the IT department and within the greater county. We bring in all kinds of people together to collaborate, and we run those types of incidents. And every time we do that, we're getting better. We're using the same technology that they would use to contain part of a fire, or to work on a hazmat incident. So everybody speaks the same language. And we're building that skill set to do this. So I can't tell you how many incidents have happened at Boulder County, but the thing about incidents is they often are false positives, especially in cybersecurity. So we get worried about something, we run in, we start looking into it, and we learn that it was a mistake and not an attack. Really common. It was a misconfiguration, not anything with anything negative behind it. So that's really common for us. We often discover that things are mistakes and not, or a vendor going offline or something like that, rather than a cyber incident. But we have to have that skill in place, because if it was a real incident, we would be really glad to be able to respond that way.
So that's really interesting, Ben. I really appreciate your candor there. So you're a pretty good sized government, right? I mean, this is really sophisticated stuff. You talked about a lot of different plans and policies. What advice do you have for smaller governments to be able to do something like this? Because it's so important, and this would help everyone across the state, no matter where they're located. What advice do you have for them?
Yeah, this is the best part about being in a community of public sector agencies. So here in Colorado, we have what I would consider to be a pretty tightly knit community from the bottom to the top. We have 4,000 cities, counties, and special districts, and those 4,000 all have weirdly similar security issues. Some of us, like school districts, have some real special issues, because school districts are filled with thousands of little hackers, but for the most part, we have really similar security needs across these agencies. So even though Boulder County does have, a couple 100,000 residents and a couple of thousand employees, the problems that we experience here, and the security incidents, and the organization behind those incidents, is really very similar to what a super small agency would need. And the best part is that there is no need to reinvent any of this. So all across our state is a network of these hardworking emergency managers. Every part of our state is served by an emergency management office, and those folks are amazing. They are putting out fires, literal fires, right? They're drying out floods. They are coordinating transit. They are responding to weather emergencies, and they're doing it in this structured way that you can get in on. All you have to do is start to build a relationship with them. They all have a monthly max meeting or something along those lines. You can ask to join. And when you join and you come and hang out, they develop threat awareness together as a team, for the region, or they run a tabletop exercise. And so everything you do in that space just makes you better at how you would run those same exercises within your own organization. So you're not starting from scratch. You're building on what's already in place in your area. You're connected, as said, all the way up to the state emergency management, and even higher levels of resources if you do have a truly big incident there. And most importantly, you can simply ask for help. So if you have a security incident, there have been small cities, small special districts in Colorado that had a security incident. They don't have a ton of plans on the books. They aren't exercising this stuff every week or anything like that. I'm not either, but you get it. So they said, hey, emergency manager for my area, will you help? Could we call this an emergency? And then you could come and help us coordinate this. And emergency managers love it. it's been so long since they've gotten to add a completely new disaster domain to the stuff that they can help coordinate. It makes for an awesome story. So go connect with your emergency manager and don't be afraid to ask them to run an emergency and show you how they would do that work. And then you can learn from it. And then you have this invaluable experience for the rest of the time you do that work, where you can replicate the tools and techniques. You can also call me. I can talk about this all day about these plans. I'll share my plans with anybody who's interested. And we could even collaborate on a tabletop or something someday. There are sometimes statewide tabletop exercises that all kinds of agencies participate in collaboratively.
Wow, Ben, thank you so much for sharing your story with us today, your expertise, giving advice on how people can really get involved in emergency management. I really appreciate that. So can you please tell me, you live up in Boulder County. If I came up to Boulder County, what's the one thing that I should go see, do, eat?
I got it. Okay. Here in Boulder County, we have a bunch of really excellent hikes. I'm a hiker, love to get outside. I love to do my strategic thinking in the woods, under the sky. And my favorite hike here in Boulder County, and it is also my favorite hike in Colorado, is Mount Sanitas. So if you go up Canyon Road, you will get to it's not Canyon Road, Mapleton Road, sorry. You will get to a little parking area for this hike. And when you start up Sanitas, there is a valley trail and a mountain trail. I recommend the mountain trail. It is a solid medium difficulty hike. So if you are not ready for a medium difficulty hike with a bunch of elevation gain, it might be a little difficult. Although you definitely will see like whole families trooping their way up, or folks in, sandals, running up and down the trail. But Boulder is also full of professional athletes and things like that will put you to shame kind of no matter what kind of shape you're in. But along the way on Sanitas, I've hiked Mount Sanitas every day of the year. I've seen, huge batches of hummingbirds, huge batches of dragonflies, clouds of raptors, circling below you when you get to the top. It's an amazing view out over the valley. And it's an excellent workout. It's like an hour and a half of, I think, a pretty challenging. It is medium. It's not death defying. You never have to put your hands down on the ground or anything to get to the top. But I believe strongly that it is one of the 10 best hikes in the nation. And I think everyone in Colorado should experience Mount Sanitas if you are able to do so safely.
Great. Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. If you're ever out here, you're invited.
Okay. I will wear hiking boots, though, I promise you.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for doing the podcast with SIPA's GovTech Now. We really appreciate you joining us, and we'll talk to you soon.
Have a great afternoon.
Thank you. Next on GovTech Now, I look forward to sharing a topic we don't talk much about, psychological safety in the workplace. Mark Pfaffinger with Larimer County walks us through this new initiative, along with keeping up with the rate of change and the human impact it's having, and so much more. I look forward to sharing my next podcast with you.
The types of disruption that we're seeing within our teams and the kinds of technologies you're going to have to navigate has really created an environment where we have to really listen, trust, and build morale first, and ultimately change the culture. Our culture change is really going to be built more on feeling safe and innovation, not risk aversion.